Hey everybody, how's it going? Dr. Heldman here. Happy spring/summer. In this video I want to talk about career paths. Maybe you're interested in changing careers, or maybe you're thinking about getting certifications in a career path, or what have you. In this case, you have 3 or 4 pretty good options to look at, and I just want to see if I can help you make a decision about potentially some other roads that you might go down. Let's talk about this and see how it goes. So if you want to get into information technology, into IT, and you haven't worked there before and you're trying to figure out what these different venues are, what these avenues are, this is a good time to find out. There are 3 primary ones. There are lots of others, but these are the 3 that I think are the most important right now if you're thinking about switching and getting into IT, or if you want to change, you're doing something different and you just want to, you're in IT already, but you want to move into a different area. These are things that you might think about. Now, the 3 choices that I think you have are cybersecurity, which is very strong. There's still a lot out there, a lot of jobs out there. AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning, ML. And then a new one is quantum computing. So I want to talk about quantum today because it's a really, really interesting topic. Now, what kind of a career are you seeking? If you're thinking about getting into cybersecurity, that's great. All of these positions that we're talking about today, all of these areas are highly technological, highly technical. They're going to require you to have quite a bit of different varieties of training because there's a lot of things that are intermixing here, like the cloud and coding, Python in particular, working with hardware, processors, the APIs, algorithms, things like that. So there's a lot to know. Cybersecurity isn't alone in this, but cybersecurity is very technologically challenging. There's a lot of things that you have to know to be really successful in it. Maybe you're considering artificial intelligence, AI, or machine learning, ML. Well, what if I told you that one of the biggest opportunities in IT is something that you may not be considering, and that would be in the area of quantum computing. So let's talk about this a little bit more. Now, cybersecurity, while not dead, it's not dead. It's on a plateau. I would say that cybersecurity is plateauing. Here's what I'm talking about. If you want to get in at the bottom level of cybersecurity, you're going to need a ton of cybersecurity certifications. There are lots of good ones, GIAC and CISSP and CompTIA and et cetera, lots and lots of cybersecurity certifications to be had. It may be you might get lucky and you might get into a cybersecurity SOC analyst position. It's not going to be hacking or blue team, red team type of thing where you're actually hacking into a corporation or a business or something like that to try to prove that there are vulnerabilities there. You're probably going to wind up looking at a lot of alerts coming in off of different logging sites from different servers. And so it's not the most entertaining of jobs. I've done movies on this before where you have to kind of work your way up to prove your chops, your IT chops. And so while it's fine, I'm not down on going into cybersecurity. I will tell you also that it's leveling out a little bit. And what's happening here is that companies are looking for experienced technicians, not necessarily entry-level technicians. The certifications are still essential, but they're no longer the guaranteed golden ticket. What we mean by that is you get 5 or 7 certs, you put them on your resume, you're guaranteed to be hired. That may not be the case anymore unless you want to relocate somewhere. Maybe you can find a job elsewhere in a different part of the country, or maybe even in a different country. So cyber has leveled out a little bit. I'd like to show you a couple of these. Let's take a look at these websites that I've highlighted here so we can get an overview of what's going on here. Okay, this first link, and I've got these in the slide deck as well, so you can write these down. This is actually a 2021 blog that was reposted by this CyberCrime magazine. And they're saying that there are 3.5 million unfilled positions in 2025. So that's actually a good thing. And they come down here and talk about Nationwide, there are 90,000 CISSPs. That is the gold standard. That's the thing that you want to have. You have to even prove that you have work experience in cybersecurity before you could even sit for the CISSP, but it's a very highly sought after cert. There are 90,000 CISSPs, but there are 106,000 job openings that are requiring a CISSP. Certified Information Systems Security Manager, a CISM, has just 17,000 people holding the credential, the certification, but they need 40,000 people. Now, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, we'll go look at that in just a minute, so that this will be the 10th fastest growing occupation over the next decade with an employment growth rate of 31%. And they go on and give you some more detail here. So this is a good article to read to find out a little bit more about what's going on in terms of the jobs that are out there in cybersecurity. All right, now this is the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. I don't know, a lot of times when you're looking at this, I don't know how much you can take to the bank in terms of what they're saying here. But now what I'm looking at here is information security analyst. Now you need to key in on that word analyst. Not everybody that is in cybersecurity is hacking. I understand that hacking is a really cool thing. It's fun to learn. There's a lot of technology involved. You're probably not going to be a hacker at an entry-level position in a cybersecurity company. That's a very specialized position. However, if we say cybersecurity analyst or information security analyst, what these people are doing is they're looking for clues and hints that the organization is being breached somehow. And they're looking at hundreds of different logs coming from different servers, routers, switches, all kinds of different equipment, things like that. So it's about understanding and looking at what's happening out on the edge and to see if you're being breached somehow through some sort of a vulnerability. And that's even a specialization. There are people that are called threat hunters. That's a very high-level job. It's a very specialized position. It's also highly technological. So you can expect in 2024, median pay would have been $125,000 a year, about $60 an hour. You need a bachelor's degree to get in. The majority of that, the reason for that is because a lot of hiring authorities still think that you need a computer science degree or a computer information systems degree to break your way into the cybersecurity field. You need less than 5 years work experience, so that's good in a related occupation. Although I will tell you that if you're currently working in IT and you want to bust into cybersecurity, your IT experience is very, very valuable for you. So that's something you would definitely want to put on your resume. There are 180,000 potential jobs as of 2023, and they claim it's growing at 33% faster than average, and there's an employment change of about 60,000 jobs. So this is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and this is a good thing to look at if you're interested in finding out what the job search and the job outlook looks like out there. And this is the one that's really interesting to me. This is called CyberSeek. What this is a heat map for the jobs that are out there. The darker the color, the more jobs that are open. So you can see that Colorado, Cali, Texas, places like that have a lot of paths. Part of the reason for that is because there are lots of military bases. And so, defense contractors like Lockheed Martin have facilities in Colorado, Texas, Cali, Virginia, elsewhere. And so one of the reasons that these are showing up darker is because there are a variety of defense contractors, and they are looking for skilled cyber people as well. And of course, anything having to do with Washington, D.C., the NIA, CIA, FBI, etc., they are looking for people that are skilled as well. So there's a lot of demand, but it's only in certain states, and others not so much. So this is a pretty interesting heat map here. It's called cyberseek.org is where you go to get that. Now here's what I wanted to pay attention to. So the national average supply versus demand ratio trend. You can see here that in 2010 it was very high, but in 2025 it's moved steadily down. So when I say plateauing, what I'm talking about is I don't think that the need for highly skilled, highly credentialed people that know how to work in this business has flagged at all. But I think what's flagging here is the number of entry-level openings, because it's not enough to just go and get a whole raft of certs. You also have to work in the industry and build up your repertoire on how you work within a cybersecurity field. So that's part of the thing that's going on there. The job openings trend peaked here in 2022. You can see in 2025 it's due to fall a little bit. I think the reasons are the same. And then the employee workforce trend has sort of leveled out. It was 60 last year and 61% this year. So let's take a look at the certification holders. The big dog on the planet right now, CompTIA Security Plus, that's a very, very good cert. You can see that 267,000 or 66,000 people have the Security Plus cert. I have it. It was a good exam. I liked it a lot. I've got all three, what were all three of the primary security certs in CompTIA. There was Security Plus, CySA Plus, and then Pentest Plus. They've added on a couple more now because they have really started to revamp and work their way up. Another one is the CISSP. This one's very highly sought after. It may be challenging for you to get this initially. You're probably going to need some work experience before you consider sitting for the CISSP. There is GIAC, is a company that has a lot of skin in the game in terms of cybersecurity certifications, so they're very high. Here's the Certified Information Systems Auditor, the CISA. That's 36,000. Then there's the Certified Information Systems Manager. You can see these are going down. And what they're not doing is they're not showing you other certs like Certified Ethical Hacker or any of the other SANS certs, things like that. But these are the big guys, and you're not going to get away from not having a certification. You must be pursuing these certifications. Now, I've told you in other movies, but you really need your A+, your Network Plus, your Linux Plus, and then you should focus on Sec Plus, CySA Plus, Pentest Plus, etc. But you want that background, that really good background that A+ brings to you and Network Plus and Linux bring to you. It's a Linux world, so you've got to be very, very proficient in Linux. Alrighty, so I put the URLs up here for you to go out, and you can go, if you Google it, you get 1 million hits. These were three of the ones that I thought were the most good. But please keep in mind that when I say the rise and plateau of cybersecurity, I'm not saying it's going away. I'm just saying that entry-level positions are sort of starting to get narrower and narrower, and what organizations are looking for is a little bit of depth of experience, a depth of knowledge in terms of these highly technical positions. All right, now what about the AI and ML boom? AI stands for artificial intelligence. ML stands for machine learning. There's another one, data science, DS. They're very hot, and they are evolving fast. Like, this is moving so fast, it's very difficult to keep up with it. Now, in terms of cybersecurity versus AI and ML, they're different avenues to go down, and they do very, very different things. But from a technological standpoint, I would offer to you that AI and ML is every bit as technological, if not more vastly technological, than something like a cybersecurity. So like in cyber, you have to know your way around TCP/IP and Linux, and you have to know how to research these vulnerabilities, what's going on, things like that. But in AI and ML, you have to be a Python guy, you have to know about these machine learning libraries. There's a lot to it, and it's a vastly different boat. So tools like Python, TensorFlow, which is a language that was invented by Google that's used extensively in developing neural networks, and for example, OpenAI has an API out there for you that you could use to hook up and connect to OpenAI servers. That stuff makes it more accessible, but it's not a walk in the park, guys. TensorFlow is a pretty difficult product to get your arms around and to begin to understand. And there's another one called PyTorch that is equally as difficult to understand. And so I'm just communicating to you that it's technologically much different than cyber, but it's also as complicated and the jobs are out there. There's a lot of jobs in this arena. However, and this is something that I wanted to communicate with you. Years ago, when I was teaching high school, I was just beginning to start teaching high school. Schools all over the United States, probably all over the world, were talking about what they called STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And they never did include computer science in that because computer science was sort of just folded into all of those categories. Well, STEM became hot, hot, hot. That was the sexy thing in every school, everywhere. All of these schools began creating STEM programs. There were STEM specialty organizations that popped up. Everybody's having conferences on STEM. STEM was this big word, and now it's sort of settled into the schools, and the schools are actively teaching STEM topics like engineering and CAD and things like that, robotics, 3D printing, et cetera, et cetera. But it has sort of evened out now, so you don't, like when you're walking down the hallways, you don't hear administrators talking as much about STEM as they used to talk about because it's sort of been integrated into the framework in a lot of schools. And it's becoming increasingly crowded. So what's driving this, though, and I think this is very interesting, is a lot of the big colleges, the community colleges, the universities, et cetera, throughout the United States and elsewhere have settled on data science as a path. And I'm not against data science. I think that's fine. Data science is only one avenue of AI and ML. Data science is making sense out of big pieces of data and doing something with them inside the ML infrastructure to make decisions and get at the idea about what's happening. But that's not the only thing here. So AI has its own perks, ML has its own perks. There are convolutional neural networks. There's a lot of stuff to be done in AI to the point where you really could specialize and you could say, well, I'm an LLM guy or I'm a GPT guy or whatever, and you could specialize like that. But saying it's the new data science, what that means is that it's exactly like STEM. So the schools all over the place, colleges, secondary schools are saying the word data science. So they're all about data science. And I would caution you that if you're going to get into AI and ML, you must have a very, very robust understanding of linear algebra and statistics and probability, statistical analysis, because this thing is what folds in on that. That's what's happening, is we're taking large globs of data, we're using statistics to manipulate it, to submit it to a model, and then make sense out of what's going on with the data. So that's very, very important to you. It's a very math-heavy scenario. So you have to have some good math background. And then when it says portfolio requirements, what they're saying here is, are you working with data today? If you are, that's a good thing. If you're a database administrator like a DBA and you know data, structured data really well, or about data, that's going to be very, very helpful for you. So AI and ML are not out, but I would say that they are sort of leveling, kind of like cyber is leveling, in the sense that we're starting to get a handle on what these jobs are, what the positions are. And a lot of colleges are offering data science degrees, data science certifications. There are probably schools out there that are offering a straight AI or ML degree. I'm sure there are. But it's really kind of a data science world when you start looking around at some of the college catalogs. Now, let's talk about the large language models, because this is where pretty much everything is happening. This is actually replacing search engines. I know that I do an awful lot of searching now on the web using LLMs as opposed to the conventional Google model. And I just wanted to show this little roadmap here to show you how many LLMs there are, large language models. So you've got Grok, X, Elon Musk's Twitter is now X, and it's moved heavily into AI. There's Grok 3, Grok Video, Grok 4. Anthropic is a big company that's out there that's doing a lot of this. They just released Claude. It's gotten all kinds of good reviews, especially in the form of writing code, so it'll write code really well. Facebook, Meta, has their tool called Llama. Google DeepMind has Gemini 3 and Gemma 3. Microsoft has a thing called Phi-5. Baidu has one. So the big player here is OpenAI, and they have GPT 4.5, GPT-5, which is called O3, and then they have O4, and these are estimates as of 2025. Why am I putting this slide up for you? Well, because you need to know what the timeline is with all of these different researchers that are releasing these different products. And there's quite a bit to know. You can really get involved, get emails every day, like thousands of them, telling you all of the advances in AI and ML. So it's really good to be aware of the timeline as to what's going on with these tools. Now, the next big thing, and the relatively unpopulated thing, in my opinion, is quantum computing. Now, what quantum does is it replaces classical mechanics. So there's a physics term called classical mechanics. What we mean by that is, let's say that you're going to flip a coin. So you've got a nickel or a quarter or whatever, and you're going to flip that. And classical mechanics says that the coin is going to land either in a 0 or a 1, a binary fashion. It's going to be either 0 or it's going to be 1, meaning it's heads or tails. And it's pretty much regardless of the way that you're holding your hand and things like that. That's the difference maker, is how you hold your thumb, how much you spin it. If, as I show you that, I could spin to the right, I could spin to the left, I could spin up. I could get pretty creative with that. Classical mechanics is binary, so it's 0 and 1s. It's just a decision over another. Quantum computing is not. Quantum is using what is called a qubit. And so the qubit has the ability to be a 0 or a 1 or something in between. And it's using what is called entanglement and superposition to do that. These are really, really interesting quantum mechanics topics. So right away, what you're hearing, though, is that, oh gosh, I've got to know a little bit about quantum mechanics. I've got to know why this is working this way. I don't think you need a PhD in physics to get into this, but I do need to think that you need to understand the physics of why this is working the way that it is. Now, here's the thing. So a qubit, they have these quantum computing processors now called a qubit. And it used to be that we only had 1 or 2 or 3 qubits. Like IBM has been very, very strong in this area here. And now they have a cloud-based environment where you can go play. You can use their tool. It's called Watson. It's an IDE for quantum computing. Very, very cool. But the thing is that classical computing with the regular processors, the GPUs, things like that, can solve problems pretty easily. And we're getting to a point, though, where we need bigger and stronger and more powerful computers that can solve really, really extensive problems that classical computing cannot. And so this is why quantum computing is so interesting to us. For example, molecular simulation. Pharmaceutical companies can use this to create new drugs. We can use this to figure out, to diagnose patients in a medical setting. It's very good for optimization. It can be used in cryptography, and that's got a lot of people freaking out in terms of cryptography, because once these quantum computers start to grow and they start to become vogue, and the thing that's really going to happen, and they're happening now, don't get me wrong, but then a lot of people are worried that our modern today, our cryptographical environment can be cracked right away by quantum computers, and so people are really worried about that. It's an interesting problem. So there are some big players in the world. IBM, Google is heavily into this. There's a company called D-Wave that's into this. I'll show you their sites in a minute. And then IonQ. And governments are investing billions in this. So it's really a good area to go into, especially if you're interested in science, physics. There's some math in it for sure, statistics for sure, but it involves quantum mechanics. So that's the really interesting component of this, Einstein and all that stuff. Now, the reasons why quantum computers are so much faster So here I say, if you're not currently or have ever been a physics nerd, and I'm not a physics nerd, I took a physics class in college one time and it kicked my butt. There's a lot to physics. But now's the time for you to jump in and learn more about quantum mechanics. This is the bailiwick of quantum computers. And you can see here, there's a slide here where we've got an electron here, electron here. These two have certain spins. They talk about what's called a spin. And they talk about entanglement. And the idea with entanglement is this electron over here can say, I'm doing this, and then it can alert another electron. It can be clear across the universe, and they will instantaneously be updated. So there's this really good idea about entanglement. It's something you should be aware of. Now, I've given you 3 YouTube sites here. These are all really good. I want you to know that IBM is a fantastic company. They've been around a long time. They have billions of dollars in R&D, research and development equity in the bank. They can pour billions into this, and they are pouring billions into that. They're very smart people working there. IBM is probably the road you want to go down if you want to learn more about quantum computing. So the very top one here is an IBM YouTube. And then here's another YouTube video that I gave you that's really good, talking about entanglement. This is a British physicist that's talking about that. And then here's another in-depth explanation of entanglement. So something you need to know about. You have to be aware of physics and the idea of quantum mechanics to be able to understand what's happening with quantum. Now, quantum is an early stage. It's not saturated. It's just getting going. What do I mean by that? Well, IBM has the largest quantum computers on the planet right now. And what they'll tell you is if you're listening to or reading IBM materials, they will tell you that we are at the point where if a problem cannot be solved by conventional computing, it's going to take a 100-qubit processor or higher. So IBM has 100-qubit processors. There's one that's 133 qubits. So they're really trying to expand this out. And it's not as easy as it sounds because we have to have things at a very low temperature. It's a very sophisticated, different environment than a normal computer is. Now let's check out some of these URLs so you can see what this looks like. So this is an actual picture of a quantum computer here. This is D-Wave. All of these pipes here, what they're doing is they're keeping the temperature of this processor down to near absolute zero. These things have to be very, very cold. So D-Wave is really cool. They're heavily involved in the quantum space. They have a cloud service, for example. They have developer tools. They do a lot of research. They even use quantum AI, which is extremely interesting. And here's a YouTube video you can go look at. Here's the processor right in the middle. But what you don't know is that this is kept in a very, very cold, isolated environment to be able to cause this quantum computing to work effectively. This is an organization called IonQ, and love these guys because what they're doing is they are heavily involved with a bunch of different partners in terms of making quantum computing happen. For example, Microsoft Azure is focused fully on quantum computing. There is an Amazon AWS service called Bracket that is focused on quantum computing. You can see that there are some big players here that are in the quantum environment. AstraZeneca, they make pharmaceuticals. You get the idea. A lot of people are interested in quantum and where they can go and what we can do with it. So IonQ is a good place to begin looking at quantum computing. Now this is the IBM website, and they have a room here, a huge data center full of quantum computer servers. And you know, they're in this silver rack here. It's very, very interesting technology. IBM is the one that you probably want to be involved with the most closely, and I'll show you why here in just a minute. But I do want to say a couple of things. First of all, IBM makes its own processors. So this is called the Heron. Look at that. The thing is 156 qubits, which means now We've gone up above the place where classical computing can actually solve a problem without taking billions of years to do it. These things can do it, in a few hours. And so they make their own CPUs. They're called QPUs, quantum processing units. And they also invented a language called Qiskit. Now, Qiskit uses Python, so you have to be really an expert Python player to get involved with quantum computing and IBM. Now, one of the things that I really love about about IBM, is that when they go into something, they go headlong into it. They've done a bunch of training. There are courses on Coursera where you can learn to become a quantum computing engineer. And then they even have a basic class here that's actually really, really good. And it's called, you go to learning.quantum.ibm.com. There's a full class here that you can go through to learn more about quantum. So that's the way that I would recommend that you start here. And where you're going to wind up at is you're going to wind up using Watson on the IBM Quantum Computing cloud site to be able to make things happen within the cloud network. So as I look down through here, take a look at some of these. So here's the main course. This is Quantum Computing in Practice. There's some other learning paths. So you have getting started with Qiskit, understanding quantum information and computing, scaling quantum. You get the idea. And they have a bunch of courses out here where you can get a badge like that. Really, really good stuff out here. And they also have some tutorials for you. Now also, if you're going through an IBM quantum course, you're going to use Watson Studio. This is an IDE, an integrated development environment, that's talking to IBM's cloud-based quantum computing service. And so this allows you to get in there and to be able to write code, Qiskit code, that talks to actual quantum computers. It's very, very cool. Watson, I don't know if you remember this, I'm old enough to remember that Watson actually beat the world's best Jeopardy player in a Jeopardy game, and it won competition. So Watson's been around a while. IBM's been very, very focused on this for a long, long time. And this Watson Studio now is something that you have available to you to allow you to be able to write Qiskit code to talk to a quantum computer. It's very cool. And you'll do this as a part of the coursework that you're involved with. Now, I did want to introduce you to one of my two favorite book publishers, technical book publishers. This is a company out of Europe called Packet, P-A-C-K-T, PacktPub.com. And if I went out and I was looking for books on Qiskit and AI, so let's just look for Qiskit and see what we find. And there is a brand new book that's out there. It's this guy right here. It's February of 2025. Learn Quantum Computing with IBM and Watson. So this is pretty cool. The ebook's only $10 right now. I think that's a pretty good buy. And this thing got really, really good reviews on like Amazon and elsewhere. This might be the place where you start, especially if you know a lot of Python, you know how to write some code. Maybe you dig into this book and you learn how to write some quantum code with Python to talk to Watson. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be a good way to mix and match and find out how this works. All right, so the good news here with quantum, and this is a picture of what the quantum computer looks like. The gold and the silver here are delivering fluid down to the processor to get it way, way down in the temperature to where it can function. That's one of the big problems with quantum. I don't see you carrying around a Dell quantum laptop anytime soon because of the cooling requirements, but I imagine they will overcome that over time. But the good news is you do not need a PhD in computer science, physics, or math to get into quantum computing. This is the URL for the quantum computing basics that I just showed you. It's quantum.cloud.ibm.com. There's the Qiskit textbook that I showed to you. There's a place called Quantum Country. Let's go take a look at that real quick. This is what Quantum Country looks like. This is a pretty cool site. I have not gone into it in depth, but they offer you a free introduction to quantum computing and quantum mechanics, because you're going to have to know why why this is working. So the quantum mechanics part is important for you to understand, and they're using mnemonics to get you, they pride themselves on giving you easy to read and easy to understand material regarding quantum computing. There's also Microsoft, and they have a thing called katas. Let's go take a look at that. Microsoft has never been very good. This is my opinion of Microsoft, just my opinion, but Microsoft has never been very good at offering training. When you go look for training, you either A, have to pay thousands of dollars for a class, or it's difficult to find books for it. And if you try to go to the learn.microsoft.com website, it's loaded with thousands upon thousands of web pages, very hard to surf. But in this case, katas here, Quantum Katas, which is Microsoft's quantum learning tool, is actually pretty good. You can see the lessons here. The URL is quantum.microsoft.com, and you're just looking for quantum-katas. And this might be another good way to get started. Now, it's pretty extensive. Take a look at this. Most of these have between 10 and 30 lessons. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot to know. So you've got to be careful and know that you've got to get through all of this. This is not something that's going to happen for you tomorrow. But if you enjoy topics like science and especially physics, and you've been interested in quantum mechanics, and you know how to code, or you're interested in learning how to write code, especially Python, and if you're interested in getting into an area that is not quite so packed with people that want to get into that area, quantum might be the ideal choice for you. Okay, which path is best for you? Now, cybersecurity is great if you're already in it, like if you're a SOC analyst or something like that, or you love systems defense, or you're wanting to change, but you don't want to go through all the heavy lifting that's involved with something like AI, ML, or with quantum. That's a good way to go. You just need to remember that you've got to have the certs, you've got to have patience because you've got to build your game while you're working with teams. And so it has kind of leveled out here because there's a lot of people that have found out, oh, there's hundreds of thousands of jobs open. I can do a basic cybersecurity thing, get right into a SOC somewhere, a security operations center. That may not be true anymore. It might be fairly leveled out. Something to think about anyway. Now, AI and ML is promising, but you've got to be able to stand out. And when I say stand out, there are people out there that are hardcore serious about this topic, and they know a lot about it. So this is an area that you're going to have to really study, stay ahead of, make sure you've gotten a lot of training wherever you get that. There's a million classes available for this stuff, and you understand it. And furthermore, because it's very coding intensive, and you need to understand all of the algorithms that are working, that are in place, all the different models, this might be something that hurts your brain if you're not one that wants to go down this kind of a road where there's a lot of embedded complexity in it. Now, quantum computing is complex. I'm not going to tell you it's not. There's a lot to know. However, here's the thing that's really cool about quantum. It is future ready. This is where everything is heading. We're getting to the point where we're going to wind up doing cybersecurity encryption algorithms using quantum computers. In fact, that's already being done in some cases. It is a wide open field for you, and it is ripe for pioneers. If you are a pioneer and you want to hang out your shingle and you want to be this person that's involved with this, quantum might be the place where you want to go. If you want to be at the frontier of technology and help shape what comes after classical computing, quantum is worth exploring. What do we mean by after classical computing? Well, think about the iPhone. You know, Steve Jobs came out and said, hey, you know, here's a phone. It's essentially a computer in your pocket. Boom. The entire world, overnight practically, it seems like it was overnight, was carrying a cell phone in their pocket. The computer's every bit as fast and as good as the computer that you have on your desktop. And in a lot of cases, a lot of people use it as their complete go-to computing machine. And so that is classical computing. So we evolved from having a desktop computer, which I still use, having a laptop or a tablet, having a cell phone. Now it's evolving away from classical computing with the conventional processors into these quantum processors, these qubits. And so it's worth exploring, because this is definitely where the big guys, the Microsofts, Googles of the world, Oracle of the world, IBM, people like that are very, very focused on this. The Chinese are highly, highly focused on this. So this is a good area for you to get into. I'm just saying that you're going to have to maybe make your own path a little bit. There's a lot of good help out there for you, but it's not as robust and full-on baked out as something like a cybersecurity or an AI ML is. So that is what's going on there. Did you enjoy this video? I hope you did, because I love creating content. I've discovered that I enjoy creating content. I like giving it to you guys. I like explaining new topics. I'm not a subject matter expert in any of these topics, so I'm not trying to come across like that. What I do is I keep my eye on the future of where computing is going, and I think that in this case, quantum is a really, really good choice for you to think about getting into. So if you're liking this video, please like it, subscribe to it, share it, make sure you're notified when new videos come down. Please tell your friends about this video, and you're welcome to drop comments in. I get comments from you guys. Love it. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I will talk to you in the next video. Have a super good day. Bye.